in this beautiful church.
We understand that he is watching. Uh, Jeanine, tell us where this all began for you.
The in the journey, or before the journey, or
How this started.
well, it all started at, I was born in Brooklyn.
Me too.
Oh, wow. Okay. But by the time I was 7, we had to move, and I moved to Island, New Jersey. But I went to school in Colonia, where I did my student teaching. I was a Spanish high school teacher for years, starting out in Middletown, New Jersey. But then I had 3 children in 4 years, and I needed a less demanding full-time schedule and a lesser of a commute. So I taught part-time, where I did my student teaching in Woodbridge Township at a wonderful high school, John F. Kennedy High School in Island. And that's where my beloved career of teaching Spanish ended abruptly and horrifically on November 23rd, 2001.
Tell us what happened.
Well, it was the day after Thanksgiving, and it was literally Black Friday, and did not know how black it was going to turn out to be. But the day before, I had hosted a huge crowd of family, and I had a Thanksgiving dinner. That was my hobby, entertaining. Still is. My pre-injured self is pretty much the same as my post-injured self, which I thank God for every day. But I had a wonderful day, and then I had to go to a wake on Black Friday. And my children did not want me to go. Now, I'm not going to give all the details of the day, because I dedicate one chapter to the day that I was hurt. So I'm not going to reveal all. I just want you to know that I made a right on red on Route 18, like I had done countless times before. And then my tragedy happened, of no fault of my own. But it was a horrific day. I never lost consciousness, so I have every detail written down.
This was a car accident.
It was a car accident. Yes. A very unavoidable car accident.
And you emerged. Did you realize at that point that you had been injured as extensively as you have been?
Yes, the second that I knew I was injured, I couldn't move my legs. So I became a quadriplegic, the same way that most quadriplegics or paraplegics become injured, in one cruel second that you never saw coming. But my body went into shock. So I stayed calm, and I really thought that the hospital would make everything okay. And that when it didn't, I had every bit of faith that God would make it okay. But in my eyes, that okay was getting up and walking out of that hospital. Or walking at some point. But I have to say, one of the reasons why I had to write this book was because I didn't walk away, but I got cured. I got healed in ways I never thought possible. I have been totally transformed. And I lead the life of an able-bodied person. But I think I have to give a big shout out to my husband, because he takes the worst part of this injury, the parts that are so difficult, like dressing, transferring from my regular wheelchair to the bed, or from my regular wheelchair to my shower chair. He makes that all happen. He dresses me in 10 minutes. And then once I'm in my wheelchair, I lead an able-bodied life.
Jeanine, let me interrupt you just for 1 second. Can you explain to those who are not aware of exactly what a quadriplegic symptomology is? What are the tenets of that injury for you?
Okay. There's only one way to become a quadriplegic, and that is to break your neck. You could have a stroke and mimic being a quadriplegic, but a spinal cord injury, if you incur an injury, for you to be a quadriplegic medically, you must break your neck. Now, the higher you break your neck, the more horrific the injury is. Mm-hmm. So I went to Kessler. I was in ICU for a month, and I went to Kessler for 4 months. So I was gone for 5 months, and my children were 3, 6, and 7 at the time. When I went to Kessler, I never had a bad day because there were so many people in therapy with me, physical therapy with me, that could not move a muscle below their chin. So it's very easy to be thankful for what you have when I am on the mat, I'm doing push-ups, I am learning how to roll over. The protocol was to have 3 hours of therapy a day, an hour and a half on occupational therapy, getting those fingers moving again, and an hour and a half for physical therapy. But I asked for an extra hour, and my extra hour was in the physical therapy. So I worked out for 4 hours a day for 4 months to be able to get home and function for my family.
Again, the term quadriplegic, and a quad refers to 4.
Yes.
That implies to me as the layperson, both arms, both legs. Is that how you would define that? Is that how it is medically defined?
Yes. So I have 4 weakened limbs. Now my upper limbs work, and my hand that works is a gift. This is I have never seen a quad in my 22 years of being injured that has their hands, the dexterity of this hand. This hand is more typical of what quadriplegics suffer from. So I can open my hands, but I can open them a little bit and I can shut them better, but I can hold things. So I can hold a blow dryer. What a celebration that was. So I can use my brush with this hand, my blow dryer with this hand, and this is the result.
Right. And we must say, this beautiful blue-eyed blonde is a vision. So thank you for being able to use your hair dryer.
Thank you for that. And my husband thanks my hands every day. If he had to do my hair, I would buzz it and wear a wig, because there's no way that he would ever have the patience to do my hair.
Well, you are a vision. You're absolutely beautiful. Tell us again, I am so in awe of what you have been through and how you are coping to better yourself on a physical level and clearly an emotional level. What gave you the thought to rise to the occasion, which, if I might hold this book up for you, Franklin, this is a book, this is a journey from the heart, a journey of hope, a journey of inspiration, and you absolutely must read it. If you ever have experienced anything on an emotional level, on a physical level, this book will give you the impetus to say, yes, I can too. Jeanine, this is just, it's really extraordinary. Tell us what inspired you, besides the obvious, to actually write a book.
Okay, well, That's a pretty funny story. My daughter was dating this gentleman, young man, for quite a few years. And after they survived COVID with flying colors, I really thought they were going to get married. Mm-hmm. Oh, before I go into that, I do have to tell you that there are over 171,000 words in the English language. Mm-hmm. If I had to pick one to describe myself, this is important, I would have to choose the word fixer. I love people. I'm drawn to people. But I love, when you love people, they open up to you. And I get people's problems all the time, which is fine. But I am so compelled to fix them, which is why I'm so involved with the charities that I'm involved with, because they all involve fixing people's problems. Mm-hmm. Okay, so knowing that I'm a fixer now, I really think they're going to get married, but the one problem is that this young man is an atheist, or he says he's an atheist. I'm not willing to believe that. I just thought he was baptized and that was it. He never exercised his faith. So my reaction was, you're not an atheist, you're just uninformed. Oh. And he looked at me and said, you're right. That's fair. Mm-hmm. So this fixer decided that I need to write him a letter using all of my tools, 20 years of Bible study, to prove to him that there is a God, to show him that there's evidence beyond a shadow of a doubt, that not only is there a God, but he wants to work for each and every one of us. So I consulted with my spiritual advisor, who happens to be a priest and a biblical scholar. So I sat down with him over breakfast and I said, Father, this is how I'm going to fix Rick. And I ended up dedicating the book to him. Oh, my. And when I told him that I was going to write this letter to him explaining everything I know about evidence, hard evidence, he said, Jeanine, you can't do that. It is too much pressure. You can't write him a letter. Just tell your story. And through your story, people, not only Rick, but people might be inspired. Mm-hmm. And then this feeling, I was totally overwhelmed because I realized, oh no, I have to write a book. We went from a few pages of a letter to now a book. Mm-hmm. But then COVID hit. And as long as I am productive, I'm happy. Mm-hmm. So my job was on hold because I've always worked since I've been 13. I still work. But my job at Kessler went away. That's the rehab hospital where I graduated from. But I wore 3 different hats there. And nobody could get in, nobody could even have visitors. So my job was on hiatus and I got busy writing. Mm-hmm. But another reason why I felt like I had to write this book was throughout my healing process, there were so many miracles that happened that were too loud, too incredible to ignore. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to sing God's praises. But the problem is, I have a terrible voice. So, again, I had to write a book because I write much better than I sing.
We all have different gifts. It's a blessing that you found that was your gift. So how did it all get started? How did you say one day, okay, I'm going to write a book?
Well, one really important thing was when I always had the title because this chair stands me up. What a gift. How blessed I feel when I'm at my kitchen sink, standing up, washing dishes. I feel like I am so blessed, so privileged. But when I decided, though, to write, the timing was Rick. I had to fix him before he proposes to my daughter.
Did you?
They broke up.
Oh, well.
No, but I wish him the absolute best, and I love him. He was a great help to my mother-in-law when she was sick, and he has so many great qualities, but I needed to fix him. But with his permission, I dedicated the book to him, and I have to mail it to him so that he can read it.
Well, he was your catalyst, in essence. Whether or not he had a place in your daughter's life or in your intimate family life, he had a purpose. And that purpose was he gave you an object to work against or work toward because his truth seemed to be so different than yours.
Right, and it's such an important truth, I believe. But this is another amazing thing. The minute I decided to write a book and I put the pen to the paper, I got woken up out of a dead sleep. I mean, I didn't even know I was alive and breathing. And I would wake up as if somebody took two cymbals and crashed them above my head. And I would have an instruction. Make sure you include this. Make sure that you don't forget or change this detail. And I can't just run up and out of bed and go to my computer, but I always had my phone with me. And I didn't even know what a notepad was on the phone. I said, there's got to be a way. I'll text it to myself. I did not want to forget my instructions like we forget our dreams sometimes. So I got to writing pen to paper in the middle of the night for hours, wide awake.
And were you always left-handed, or is this something that you had to teach yourself?
I was born right-hand dominant, but had to learn to use my left hand. So, and my handwriting is almost the same.
Wow.
Yes. But it's important to know that when I say from tragedy to triumph, before my injury, I was one of 5 siblings. The day of my injury, I was the last sibling to have met tragedy. I don't mean misfortune, I mean tragedy. And my mother met tragedy as well before that. So I was always faith-filled. I was teaching Sunday school right here at St. Matthias when I was injured. My faith was so strong. But so it is human nature anyway. When humans meet misfortune, they tend to ask, why me? So I knew that was normal, but I didn't ask why me. I shouted, why me? How much tragedy could happen to one family? And then, folks, that night, I was woken up from a dead sleep. This was the first time. With the answer. And the answer made so much sense. I said, why didn't I think of that? But I never even thought of it that way. And I have a whole chapter dedicated to why life is unfair and why bad things happen to good people.
Well, it sounds like your whole life prepared you for this, in that you had siblings who also went through devastating situations up to and including your mother. So you could easily have taken the other step. You could easily have become mired in that tragedy, felt sorry for yourself. And again, the why me.
I was mad.
I'll bet.
I was mad at God. I'm like, because every night when we said our prayers with the kids, we always talked to God. We didn't use just rote prayers. And our last line, though, was always, and keep us safe from harm. And I was like, hello? Were you listening? Now, Father Doug, he gave me the courage. He said, if you're mad at God, you tell him. And yeah, I was so distraught. And there is such a difference between being sad and being heartbroken. Heartbroken. But I am so jubilant now. I have I asked him for my song back, and he gave me a symphony.
Oh my God, what a statement. That's amazing. Yeah. Was there a point in time that you could feel the transition happening? That you went from the despair to the anger to the fury to the perhaps the self-pity, the level that propelled you to the next level of, I am not only going to survive this, I'm going to tell my story, I'm going to make it relevant, and others may be inspired by this. Whether others are inspired by this is almost irrelevant, I'm sensing, because you must get this out there. The irony or the blessing is that it absolutely will be inspirational. Whether someone has a physical limitation or a mental limitation or an emotional limitation, a self-perceived limitation, they will find inspiration in rising to the occasion. That's your miracle, that no matter what you were thrown, you turned it into jubilance.
The amazing thing was, and I always knew it wasn't me, it was God empowering me. I felt the transition little by little because I came home and I immediately learned how to drive again. I was cleaning my house. I was doing my laundry. I was cooking every night, and and doing the chopping and the cutting was how I got my hand back. And I was realizing, oh my goodness, I'm leading an able-bodied life. And my husband takes us on great vacations where we have traveled through Europe to the Caribbean. He takes me snorkeling. And between being under God's protection, which I prove in the book that I am, through miracles, small ones, but that'll really are jaw-dropping miracles.
I'm guessing you don't want to talk about any of them at the moment.
One of them, I can tell you one. Yeah. I am in ICU. Now, we both have very admirable professions. My husband is a civil engineer, and I am a teacher. But we had 3 children, and we bought a house, and we lived paycheck to paycheck. And I am used to working, and I love working, and I've worked as hard as I could since the age of 13. So now I'm 37, and I'm thinking, how are we going to be able to pay the bills? I have to work, and I can't. And we're in ICU, and his cell phone rings, which is another miracle because we never had service. We never had bars, but Tom's phone rings, and he answers it, and it's a former colleague of his that left the company to go on to bigger and better things, and he is now in a supervisory or a managerial role. And he calls for Tom and tells him that he has a perfect job for him, that it would be that Tom would be perfect for. Now, Tom had never done this before, but it's under the umbrella of engineering. So he said that he'll think about it until he heard the starting salary. The starting salary was an improvement, but it was my exact salary that I made part-time teaching at Kennedy High School. And I said, wow, this is divine intervention. This is God telling me that once in your life that you can't work, it's okay. Take some time off and focus on yourself, which is what I did, because you have to do physical therapy and you just have to figure out how you're going to live again. How am I going to get up my stairs in my house? But my husband's a civil engineer. He's a builder. Okay, so we made some adjustments, and you can't believe what my community did to help me thrive. Today, in today's age, it's unheard of.
Well, I think it's about to become more heard of as a result of this amazing story, Franklin. The Rise to the Occasion book. Now, Jeanine, I know you have a website and you have a Facebook page. This book is also available on Amazon. It's available in Barnes & Nobles.
If you Google Jeanine Valenti, 12 sites come up where you can purchase my book. Anywhere books are sold, you can get this book. But I have a website at risetotheoccasion.site, S-I-T-E. And that brings you to my website where you can, if you click, there's an order button there that just says order now. And that would be through the publisher, westbowpress.com. But you can also communicate with the author through About the Author. There's an author bio page, and it will give you the site to, which is Jeanine at risetotheoccasion.site, and it will give you a way to send me a message. And if you include a way to get back in touch with you, your email, I would love to hear from you, especially after you read the book.
Wow. What an amazing, generous gift that it's not only a book for you to sit and read. And there's something so satisfying, Franklin, about turning a page of a real book. This is such a gift. But that this author, who has been through more than any of us will have to live through in our lifetimes. And this book is just the testament to I can. Really, it's astounding. I want to recall that we had a conversation about a book signing that's coming up for you. It's going to be in New Brunswick. We are working, from what I understand, on perhaps having something closer to home in Franklin. But right now you have a book signing that's coming up in New Brunswick, and that's going to be on September 18th, which is soon. Tell us where that's going to be. And I'm imagining people obviously can buy your book there. Will you be autographing?
Oh, absolutely. And it's in the New Brunswick Public Library in the Carl T. Valenti room, which is my late father-in-law.
Oh, my gosh. How did that happen?
Well, he was just phenomenal. He was an attorney in the city, but my mother-in-law, Blanquita B. Valenti, community school, just opened yesterday. We had a ribbon cutting for in memory of my mother-in-law, which what a pillar of the community, what an icon she was. And in education her whole life. And she had a whole school named after her. Unbelievable. So, but I'm a resident of New Brunswick, but I love St. Matthias. So this is where my heart is. And this church is so active in the community, and I am very involved with St. Vincent de Paul, which parallels with my fixer identity, because we keep utilities turned on and rent paid for those who qualify. And we help dozens and dozens of people a year, and we've helped thousands since our beginning in 1999.
Again, it's astounding, although it shouldn't be, because your spirit of generosity, I sense, was there long before you suffered this injury, Franklin. But this injury just brought it out even farther, in that you are grateful for who you are, what you have, and what you have to work with. And the result of this, Franklin, rise to the occasion, which is clearly the legacy from your family, from your father-in-law and mother-in-law on down to you and your children. And let's not forget Rick.
And my husband, who makes it all happen too.
Right. Well, Jeanine, you make it all happen. You have inspired those around you to support you and to make sure that your vision continues to grow, because exponentially you are growing others who know about you, who get to speak with you, and who will read this wonderful book. So again, Ms. Jeanine Valenti, Franklin, the book, Rise to the Occasion, From Tragedy to Triumph, A Christian Perspective. And there will be more on Jeanine's Facebook page and her website, but the book signing will be September 18th. Tell us again where that's going to be.
At the New Brunswick Public Library, the Carl T. Valenti Room.
So do come in on that date, meet this wonderful woman, and please make sure that you leave with an autographed copy of this book, and you too will have the opportunity to rise to the occasion. We thank you so much, Jeanine Valenti. We also want to thank Mrs. Johnson, who is a dear friend and one of my neighbors, who introduced me to what Jeanine was all about. And if you're listening, Mrs. Johnson, thank you so much. You said this is a very special woman who needs to be recognized and who needs to be out there as the inspiration she truly is. So once again,
Thank you for your kind words.
well earned.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
It's their pleasure now. This is PJ Parker, Franklin reporter and advocate, always bringing you Franklin to Franklin. And we do hope that you use this opportunity to rise to your own occasion.